Nasunog ang isang pipeline sa Nanning, China.
Ano naman kaya ang sanhi ng pagsabog? At ano nga kaya itong kakaibang kulay o tila orange o pahel na kulay na lumabas mula rito? Alamin po natin yan mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Biyernes ng gabi.
Department of Foreign Affairs handang ilika sa mga Pilipino sa Lebanon kung sakaling lumubha pa ang tensyon sa nasabing bansa.
Pilipinas kinundi ang pagpapalipad ng intercontinental ballistic missile ng North Korea.
Bansang Japan nakapili na ng panibagong punong mahistrado ng bansa.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at Donald Trump magkikita sa New York.
And Hurricane Helene nagbabadyang tumama sa Georgia, USA. Foreign Affairs o DFA at ang Embahada ng Pilipinas sa Beirut na ilika sa mga Pilipino sa Lebanon kung sakaling lumubha pa at mauwi pa sa full-scale war ang bakbakan sa pagitan ng puwersa ng Israel at Hezbollah.
Sa ngayon ay nasa alert level 3 of voluntary repatriation ang ipinatutupad ng DFA sa Lebanon.
We've already identified area coordinators for respective areas here in Lebanon. We've already identified shelters. In fact, MWO has already identified and recommended a shelter in the event of a truly catastrophic mass evacuation. And we've already been in contact with the Lebanese authorities, the immigration authorities. We've been in the discussions with them on how to facilitate the repatriation of OFWs, especially those who are undocumented. Actually, we're ready. Actually, if ever the situation calls for it, we are ready to implement alert level 4.
Sa ulat ng embahada ay nasa 11,000 ang mga Pinoy sa Lebanon habang 196 ang nasa Southern Lebanon ay nakaalis na sa Southern Lebanon at nasa Beirut na. Samantala sa Oktubre inaasahang uuwi ang nasa 40 Pinoy sa 3 batch mula sa Lebanon. Nilinaw naman ni Undersecretary De Vega na bagamat seryosong ikinukonsidera ng DFA na ipatupad ang mandatory evacuation ay hindi pa malala ang sitwasyon sa Lebanon.
What if the conflict does not escalate? Because this is something rather common in the region. So we do not want to repatriate 10,000 Filipinos and then all of a sudden we'll be accused of having acted hastily in case there was no war. That's why we're taking care, because usually the level 4 is declared when there's a total breakdown. Peace and order.
Kinondena ng pamahalaan ng Pilipinas ang patuloy na paglulunsad ng ballistic missiles ng North Korea. Sinabi nitong ang mga provocative actions ng Pyongyang ay nagpapahina sa pag-unlad ng ekonomiya, kapayapaan at katatagan sa Korean Peninsula at maging sa Indo-Pacific region. Nanawagan rin ang Department of Foreign Affairs sa North Korea na kaagad nitong itigil ang paglulunsad ng mga ballistic missiles. At hinimok nito ang Pyongyang na sundin ang lahat ng mga international obligations nito at resolutions ng United Nations Security Council. Hinikayat din ng Pilipinas ang North Korea na mangako sa isang mapayapa at konstruktibong dialogo. Samantalaan ay kinumpirma ng South Korea na muli nagpaputok ang North Korea ng multiple short-range ballistic missiles, subalit hindi ito naglabas ng impormasyon kung saan bumagsak ang nasabing missiles ng Pyongyang. Nangyari ang nasabing insidente ilang araw lamang matapos ulunsad ng Pyongyang ang uranium enrichment facility nito.
Inihirit ni Chinese Ambassador to the Philippines Wang Qilian ang renewal of commitment ng diplomatic ties ng Pilipinas at ng China. Nanawagan ang Chinese envoy sa Pilipinas na makipagtulungan sa China para isulong ang kooperasyon tungo sa regional peace and stability. Binigyan diin ni Huang na dapat na nakatuon ang pansin ng Manila at Beijing sa pagsusulong ng benepisyo at interes sa mga mamamayang Pilipino at Chinese. Samantala, sinabi naman ni Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Maria Teresa Lazaro na magtutulungan ang Pilipinas at China para pahusayan ang diplomatic, economic at people-to-people relations ng dalawang bansa. Sasapit sa 50 taon ang diplomatic ties ng Pilipinas at China taong 2025 kung saan ay nagsimula noong June 9, 1975.
Nagsasagawa po ang Philippine Army ng isang 6 na araw na katihan patrol na naglalayong palakasin ang operational capabilities ng mga kalahok nito. Sinabi ni Army spokesperson Colonel Louis De Maala na ginanap ang send-off ceremony sa 1st Scout Ranger Regiment Headquarters sa Camp Texon sa Bulacan. Ang pagsasanay na ito ay inihalin tulad sa Exercise Cambrian Patrol ng United Kingdom kung saan nakakuha ng silver medals ang team nila mula 2019 at 2023. Inaasahang ipapakita ng mga kalahok ang kanilang kahusayan sa operasyon ng military briefing, close quarter battle, prisoner of war handling, at iba pa. Pati na rin sa chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense, reconnaissance patrol, at iba pang mga areas. Ayon kay De Maala, ang aktibidad na ito ay maghahanda sa mga tactical units ng Pilipinas upang mapantayan ang kakayanan ng mga kaalyadong puwersa sa buong daigdig.
Samantala, asahang muli ang dagdag presyo ng oil products sa susunod na linggo. Batay sa projection ng Department of Energy Oil Industry Management Bureau, nasa 30 hanggang 60 sentimos ang posibleng maging dagdag sa presyo ng kada litro ng gasolina. 65 hanggang 90 sentimos naman ang taas sa presyo kada litro ng diesel. Posibleng tumaas ng 40 sentimos hanggang 50 sentimos ang presyo ng kada litro ng kerosene. Ayon sa ahensya, ang patuloy na tensyon sa pagitan ng Israel at Lebanon ang sanhi ng price hike.
Ayon po sa forecast ng Pag-asa, ay posibleng sumampa sa typhoon category ang bagyong Julian na ngayon ay nasa tropical depression o TD category lamang. Signal number 1 na sa Babuyan Islands at silangang bahagi ng mainland Cagayan o sa mga lugar ng Santa Ana, Gonzaga, Gataran, Lalo, Bagao, Bugay, Apari, Santa Teresita, Camalanyugan, Peña Blanca at Ballesteros. Napanatili ni Julian ang lakas ito na may maximum sustained winds of 55 kilometers per hour malapit sa gitna at gustiness na aabot sa 70 kilometers per hour. Kaya po asahan na rin ng publiko na maglalabas ang Pag-asa ng babala ng bagyo hanggang tropical cyclone wind signal number 3. Kaugnay nito ay sinabi naman ng Department of Social Welfare and Development o DSWD na handa na ang kanilang ahensya sa posibleng epekto ng TD Julian sa Pilipinas. Tiniyak ni DSWD spokesperson Irene Dumlao na naghahanda sila ng sapat na family food packs o FFPs para sa mga lugar na posibleng maapektuhan ng bagyo. Anya, may kabuuang 153,575 FFPs ang inihanda ng DSWD para sa mga probinsya ng Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Cagayan, Apayao, Mountain Province, Abra, Benguet at Kalinga. Handa na rin ang 17,621 boxes ng FFPs para naman po sa mga lalawigan ng Bukidnon at Misamis Oriental sa Mindanao na inaasahang maaapektuhan rin ng iba pang weather systems. Tiniyak din ni Dumlao na lahat ng mga field offices ng DSWD sa Luzon ay patuloy na nakikipag-ugnayan sa kanilang mga lokal na counterparts para sa anumang updates at iba pang impormasyong kaugnay ng bagyong Julian. Hiniling din ng DSWD sa publiko na manatiling alerto at lagi makipagtulungan sa kanilang LGUs upang maiwasan ang anumang hindi magandang insidente habang nananatili ang bagyong Julian sa Pilipinas.
Pinangunahan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang inaugurasyon ng Panguil Bay Bridge. Ito ang pinakamahabang sea crossing bridge sa Mindanao. At nagkakahalaga ang proyektong ito ng mahigit sa 8 bilyong piso. Mahalaga ang Panguil Bay Bridge dahil ito ang nagdudugtong sa Tangub City sa Misamis Occidental at bayan ng Tubod, Lanao del Norte sa Mindanao. Ang 3.2 kilometer na tulay na ito ang siyang lalong magpapabilis sa transportasyon ng mga tao, mga kalakal at serbisyo, kung kaya't inaasahan ito magtutulak ng pag-unlad ng ekonomiya sa Mindanao.
The bridge connects two provinces. More importantly, we all know that the increased economic activity is going to be a very important development building block for both the provinces and for the entire island of Mindanao. But more than just a physical bridge, we are connecting the dreams and aspirations of the people of Lanao del Norte and of Misamis Occidental. With this bridge, what once took 2 hours will now take 7 minutes and will benefit 10,000 travelers a day. The bridge connects.
Susunod, Shigeru Ishiba na piling bagong Prime Minister ng Japan.
Poverty rate sa Argentina umakyat na mahigit 50% sa unang kalahati ng taong 2024.
At Israel inisnab ang ceasefire call ng international community. Ang iba pang mga detalye ng balita, pagbabalik ng mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Ilalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Exclusive! Laban ng EPIRA claimants nagpapatuloy.
Nakikipag-ugnayan na po kami para sa tamang pondo para mabayaran na po kami lahat. Karapatan namin ito.
Expose! Bagong modus sa mga scammer sa pamamagitan ng pagtawag sa mga biktima at nagpapakilalang ahente ng mga bangko ating ibubuking.
Nakaka-trauma talaga. Yun lang po yung savings ko na naubos talaga. Pinaghirapan mo ng tagal tapos bigla na lang mawawala.
Mag-asawang senior citizen na walang maayos na kabuhayan nagpaparesponde.
Ayaw namin maging pabigat sa mga anak namin. Dahil mahirap din po ang buhay nila.
Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Let's get together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
Kailan po ba maaapula ang mabagsik na apoy ng hidwaan sa pagitan ng Israel at Palestine? Kung lubos po nating iisipin, hindi malabong kumalat pa ito at lalong lumagablab dahil sa kasalukuyang lagay ng Middle East. Pagsabog dito, pagsabog roon, ito ang masasabi nating kapwang nararanasan ng mga inosente mga sibilyan ng Israel at Palestine. Hindi na ba ito talagang matitigil pa? Alam naman po natin na gumagawa ng paraan ang United Nations General Assembly para tuluyan na magwakas ang giyera ng dalawang bansa. Higit pa sa United Nations ay gumagawa rin ng paraan ng Egypt, Qatar at Estados Unidos na maisulong ang isang ceasefire deal. Subalit, mapapansing mas mabilis pa sa wildfire ang pagkalat ng apoy ng giyera ng dalawang bansa. Ngayon kasi ay kasama na sa target ng Israel na patamaan ng kanilang mga missiles ang Timog Lebanon na malapit sa hilagang border ng Israel. Kaya ating alamin kung bakit nagpalitan ng bala ang Israel at Palestine. Ayon po sa mga historiador, noong 1900s ang Palestine ay nasa ilalim ng pamamahala ng Ottoman Empire o kilala rin po sa tawag na Turkish Empire. Sa panahong ito, nasakop ng mga Turko ang isang rehiyon ng silangang Mediteraneo kung saan ay tinawag nila itong Palestine. At sa lugar na ito ay maraming mga Arabs at Jews ang nananahan dito noon. Isang dekadang inusig ng Ottoman Empire ang Jewish people dahil sa pagkakaiba nito ng kinagisnang paniniwala at relihiyon. Mula po rito ay nagsimula ang Zionism kung saan ay naniniwalang kailangan na maging estado ang Israel para maingatan ang mga Jews. Sa pagsiklab ng World War I sa taong 1914, pinabagsak ng Great Britain ang imperyo ng Ottoman. Dito na nagtatag ng sariling pwesto ang British at French Empire sa Middle East. Itinatag ng Great Britain ang British Mandate for Palestine bilang pagtatag ng autoridad sa Palestine taong 1922. Sa ilalim po ng mandato, nais ng British Empire na tulungan ang Jewish people na makabangon mula sa pag-uusig. Bahagi nito, pinayagan ng British Empire ang Jewish immigration sa loob mismo ng Palestine. Subalit, mula sa mabuting hangaring matulungan ng Jewish people ay tumaas pa ang tensyon sa pagitan ng Jews at Arabs. Dahil sa pagtaas ng karahasan mula sa pagtatalo ng dalawang grupo ay nalimitahan at sa huli ay itinigil na rin ang immigration sa Palestine. Hindi naman sumang-ayon ang Jewish people kung kaya kinalaban po ng Jewish militia ang British rule at ang mga local Arabs. At sa kalagitnaan naman ng World War II, halos 6 na milyon na mga Jews ang namatay mula sa Holocaust. Mula rito, ang mga nakaligtas na Jewish people ay lumikas mula sa Europe at nagtungo sa British Palestine. At pagsapit po ng taong 1947, napagdesisyonan ng United Nations na hatiin ang dalawang estado ng British Palestine. Ang Israel para sa mga Jews at Palestine para sa mga Arabs. Sa kabila naman ito, may ilang mga Arab states ang hindi sumang-ayon sa plano ng United Nations. Napansin kasi nila na kahit maliit na bilang ang mga Jews, ang naging partition umano sa lupa ay hindi wasto. Mas marami kasing teritoryo ang ibinigay ng UN sa Israel. Taong 1948, opisyal nang naging isang estado ang Israel. At kasunod dito ay kaagad namang nagdeklara ng pag-atake ang Arab League sa Israel at nasakop ang ilang teritoryo ng bansa. Nakuha ng Egypt ang Gaza Strip habang ang Jordan ay nasakop naman ang West Bank. At matapos po ang giyera ay marami mga Palestinians na nasa Israel ang pinaalis. Lumipas naman po ang ilang dekada na itatag ang Palestinian Liberation Organization o PLO sa taong 1964 para pagsamahin ang kapangyarihan ng maliliit na Palestine groups kontra sa puwerso ng Israel. Taong 1967, muling sumiklab ang isang giyera sa pagitan ng Israel at ilang mga Arab states at tinugurian na Six-Day War. Dito na nasakop ng Israel ang Golan Heights mula sa Syria, ang West Bank po mula sa Jordan at Sinai Peninsula mula naman sa Egypt. Ilang dekada ang lumipas, tumulong ang Estados Unidos na malagdaan ang kasunduan sa pagitan ng Israel at Egypt, ang Camp David Accords taong 1978. Ibinalik ng Israel ang Sinai Peninsula sa Egypt bilang bahagi ng Peace Treaty noon. At taong 1987 naman po muling sumiklab ang karahasan sa pagitan ng Palestine at Israel nang nasangkot ang puwersa ng Israeli Defense Forces at 4 na Palestinian refugees sa isang insidente. Dito po kasi nasawi ang 4 na refugees na pinagsimulan ng First Antifada. Marami pong Palestinian militias ang nakipaggirian sa puwersa ng Israel, kung saan libo-libo naman ang namatay. At pagdating ng taong 1993, ay nagkasundo ang Israel at PLO na gumawa ng isang timeline upang maisulong ang kapayapaan sa rehiyon sa ilalim ng Oslo Accords. At sa kabila ng timeline ay umabot din ang limitasyon nito para magkaroon ng negosasyon dahil sa mga issue na naging balakid para makuha naman ang kapayapaan. Kabilang narito ang issue sa status ng Jerusalem na isang mahalagang lugar para sa Israel at Palestine, mga karapatan ng mga refugees at panghuli ang dumaraming bilang ng Jewish settlements sa mga teritoryo ng Palestine. Dumako lang po tayo taong 2000. Sumiklab ang panibagong gera na tinatawag naman na Second Antifada dahil kay Israeli opposition leader Ariel Sharon. Bumisita po kasi siya Sharon sa Jerusalem na ikinagalit naman ng mga Palestino. Makalipas ang 5 taon ay natapos ang giyera nang umalis ang puwersa ng Israel sa Gaza Strip. Taong 2006, nanalo sa Palestinian legislative election ang Sunni Islamist group na Hamas. Dito na nagsimula ang giyera sa pagitan ng Hamas at puwersa ng Israel hanggang nagkaroon ng ceasefire deal sa pagsusulong ng Egypt, Qatar at ng United Nations taon namang 2021. Subalit, akala na marami na magtatagal po ang tigil putukan sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas. October 7 po, 2023, hindi bababa sa 1,000 mga Israeli ang pinatay na militanteng grupong Hamas. Marami ding dinakip at ginawang hostage ng grupong Hamas, subalit ang iba sa mga ito ay pinatay din sa huli. Sa tulong ng Lebanese group na Hezbollah, nagpalipad ito ng higit sa 4,000 mga missiles para patamaan ang hilagang Israel. Dito na gumanti ang Israel para ituloy ang naudlot na giyera nito laban sa Hamas. Sa patuloy na pag-atake ng pinagsamang puwersa ng Hamas at Hezbollah, muling nagpatuloy ang giyera. Ngayong Setyembre, sumali na rin ang Lebanon sa giyera matapos ang sunod-sunod na pag-atake ng puwersa ng Israel sa Timog Lebanon nitong Lunes lamang. Ayon sa Lebanese Health Ministry, hindi bababa sa 700 ang namatay sa mga residente sa Southern Lebanon habang libo-libo naman ang nawala ng tirahan at nagpasyang lumikas na lamang patungo sa kabisera ng bansa, ang Beirut. At mula sa umiiral na malawakang pag-atake ng puwersa ng Israel at Lebanon, ay masasabi natin ang katagang history repeats itself dahil sa patay-sinding relasyon ng Israel at ng ilang Arab states. Nitong Huwebes ay maraming mga pro-Palestine protesters ang nagmarcha at nagsagawa ng demonstrasyon sa New York City bago ang United Nations General Assembly address ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Tinanggihan din ng Israel ang 21-day immediate ceasefire laban sa Hezbollah ng Estados Unidos. Kinumpirma rin ito ni Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz. Marami po ang umaasang matatapos din ang hidwaan sa pagitan ng Israel at Palestine dahil marami ang natatakot sa posibleng mas malawak pang giyera sa buong Middle East. Sa katunayan po, itinaas na ng Department of Foreign Affairs sa Alert Level 3 ang Lebanon para sa voluntaryong pagpapauwi ng mga Pilipino roon. At kung magkakaroon man ng full-scale war, ay itataas na po ng DFA ang Alert Level 4, subalit wag naman sanang umabot pa sa ganito. At sa huli, kahit magkakaiba man ang paniniwala o kultura, hindi po ba kaya mas nararapat na maging isa pa rin ang kalooban ng bawat puwersa sa pagharap sa isang issue o problema para maapula ang apoy na patuloy na nagbabaga at nagsisilbing mitsa sa buhay ng mga tao?
Sa isang round of election, nakatakdang maging Prime Minister ng Japan si Shigeru Ishiba. Si Ishiba ay 67 anyos na ngayon at tinalo niya si Sanae Takaichi sa botong 215 to 194. Sa kanyang talumpati, binigyan din ni Ishiba ang pangangailangan na umangat ang ekonomiya ng Japan. Nangako rin siya na gagawa ng mga hakbang upang mapataas ang mga sahod ng mga manggagawa sa kanilang bansa.
Inaprubahan ng International Monetary Fund o IMF Board ang 7 billion loan ng Pakistan para isalba ang naghihingalong ekonomiya nito. Sinabi ng IMF na makatutulong ang loan na ito para palakasin ang macroeconomic structure ng Pakistan at masuportahan ang pagbangon nito sa aspetong pinansyal.
To commit for the structural reforms and fiscal reforms. These two things are very important if we follow the structural reforms, and these are the benchmarks of IMF as well. We have to take the taxation measures. We have to find the undertaxed or untaxed, people who are not currently in the tax net. We have to find that. We have to broaden the tax net. We have to get rid of loss-making entities. We have to go for the privatization. We have to control our public spending. We have to curtail our public spending so that, the spending is more used for the development expenditures. I think we take all these measures, then we will be able to make this program the last program.
Inanunsyo ng Australia at United Kingdom na magkakaroon sila ng kasunduan upang gumawa ng bagong klase ng nuclear-powered submarine. Bibili ang Australia ng mga US Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarines mula sa Estados Unidos sa susunod na dekada. Pagkatapos nito ay bubuo sila kasama ng UK ng bagong klase ng AUKUS submarine. Sinabi ni Australian Defense Minister Richard Marles na kabilang sa kasunduan ang industrial cooperation, technology transfer at ang operasyon ng lahat ng mga mekanismong ito. Sa isang pinagsamang pahayag, sinabi ng AUKUS na pinalalakas nila ang kanilang kakayahan na makabuo at makapaghatid ng mga offensive at defensive hypersonic technologies.
May mabigat na babala si Russian President Vladimir Putin laban sa mga Western countries. Sinabi nitong mapipilitan silang gumamit ng nuclear weapons kapag tamaan sila ng conventional missiles. Ang nasabing desisyon ay kasagutan nila sa plano ng US at Britanya kung papayagan nila ang Ukraine na gamitin ang mga conventional Western missiles sa Russia. Dagdag pa ni Putin na isang malinaw na pag-atake sa Russia kapag pinayagan ng Estados Unidos at Britain ang Ukraine na gumamit ng mga missiles. Ang mga komentong ito ay ginawa kasunod ng paghiling ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky kay US President Joe Biden at sa iba pa nitong kaalyado ng karagdagang armas at tulong militar upang maisagawa na niya ang kanyang tinatawag na victory plan na nagsisimbolo ng katapusan ng kanilang giyera laban sa Moscow. Nakasaad po kasi sa 2020 na batas sa pirmado ni Putin na maaari nilang gamitin ng nuclear weapons kung sakaling may nuclear attack mula sa kalaban. Sa kabila naman ito, nanawagan ang China na tinitignan bilang pinakamalapit nilang kaalyado ngayon ng Moscow na maghunos dili bago gamitin ang kanilang nuklear na armas.
Naglabas ng international search request ang Norway para kay Brinson Jose na may kaugnayan sa pagbebenta ng mga pager sa Hezbollah na sumabog noong nakaraang linggo. Si Jose na isang Norwegian Indian ay founder ng isang Bulgarian company na bahagi ng supply chain ng pager. Iniulat na siya ay nawala habang nasa isang work trip sa Estados Unidos kasunod ng pagbebenta ng mga pager. Nagbukas ang Norwegian Police ng international warrant para sa kanya, ngunit wala pa silang ibinibigay na detalye kung ano ang gagawin nila upang mahanap si Jose. Kapag nawawala ang isang tao sa ibang bansa, karaniwang naglalabas sila ng global alert, ngunit maaari rin silang direktang makipag-ugnayan sa mga foreign agencies depende sa mga pangyayari.
Sinabi ni European Council President Charles Michel na ang pagpayag na lalong lumala ang kaguluhan sa pagitan ng Israel at Lebanon ay isang irresponsableng aksyon. Narito po ang report ni Mayfan Zaragonza.
Humarap si European Council President Charles Michel sa United Nations General Assembly noong Huwebes. Sinabi nitong kailangan na ang pagbababang armas sa Gaza at Lebanon. Hindi na anyang maaaring magpatuloy pa ang labanan.
Liberté, solidarité, c'est en vertu de ces mêmes principes que nous condamnons les attaques terroristes abjectes portées par le Hamas. Et nous exigeons la libération de tous les otages, sans condition. Israël a le droit de se défendre dans le respect du droit international et du principe de proportionnalité. Nous voulons un cessez-le-feu immédiat, conformément à l'ordonnance de la Cour internationale de justice. Chaque vie civile compte et nous condamnons toutes les attaques indiscriminées qui frappent les populations civiles. L'Union européenne agit et veut agir davantage pour une paix durable dans le cadre d'une solution avec deux États. L'escalade sans fin doit cesser et je le dis, entraîner le Liban dans cette spirale est absolument irresponsable. Ces appels, y compris envers le gouvernement d'Israël, ont été vains jusqu'ici et cela ne peut pas durer. Avec franchise, Mo Ibrahim, si l'aide économique et l'assistance à l'Afrique sont... L'Union européenne soutient et soutiendra l'Ukraine aussi longtemps que nécessaire, fidèle à la promesse de liberté et solidarité, nous réaffirmons notre engagement pour une paix globale, juste et durable qui doit être fondée sur les principes de la Charte des Nations Unies.
Binigyang diin ni Michel ang suporta ng bloc sa Ukraine sa laban nito sa Russia. Kinondena rin ni Michel ang civil war na nagpapatuloy sa Sudan. Dagdag pa nito, malaki ang naidudulot na pananakit ng gyera, lalong-lalo na sa mga kababaihan.
Et soutien à des groupes terroristes sans foi ni loi pour déstabiliser le voisinage et au-delà, dont les pays sont gérés, et je le précise, cela vaut aussi, chers collègues, la guerre civile au Soudan fait rage, violence, brutalité, viol, et comme toujours, ce sont les femmes qui paient le prix fort. Une gigantesque catastrophe humanitaire, 20 000 morts, des millions de personnes déplacées en situation d'urgence, et c'est toute la corne de l'Afrique qui menace de basculer dans le chaos. Or, je pose la question, que sont ces deux généraux en guerre sans leur soutien extérieur? Les livraisons d'armes doivent cesser, nous pouvons stopper ce conflit si nous le voulons, alors c'est le moment d'agir et de mettre en œuvre les processus de réconciliation et de paix qui s'imposent.
Mayfan Zaragoza para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Iniulat ng Argentina ang malaking pagtaas sa poverty rate ng bansa mula halos 42% na umakyat sa halos 53% sa unang kalahati pa lang ng 2024. Ang pagtaas na ito ay isang matarik na pagtaas ng poverty sa bansa dahil sa epekto ng pinakamalalang austerity program ng pamahalaan. Ito rin ang pinakamataas mula noong 2003 noong nasa isang malaking krisis ang bansa dahil sa catastrophic foreign debt default at currency devaluation. Sa ngayon, ikinagagalak ng mga foreign investors at ng International Monetary Fund ang kontrobersyal na fiscal shock therapy na nagtagumpay sa pagpapababa ng buwanang inflation ng bansa. Napababa nito ang inflation mula 25% noong Disyembre sa 4% sa mga nakaraang buwan. Ngunit ang kasalukuyang pagtaas na ito ay maaaring muling magdala sa Argentina sa mas mataas pang poverty rate.
Nanawagan muli ang humanitarian groups at mga residente ng Gaza Strip para sa karagdagang tulong. Humaharap po ang Gaza Strip sa kritikal na kakulangan ng pagkain at maging medical supplies dahil sa patuloy na paghihigpit ng Israel na makapasok ang humanitarian aid sa nasabing lugar. JC Yumul po para sa balita.
Nagbabala ang United Nations Relief Agency for Palestinians o UNRWA na higit sa 1 milyong tao sa Gaza ang hindi tatanggap na sapat na pagkain sa buwang ito. Aniya, hinaharang sa Israeli checkpoint ang mga truck na naglalaman ng sariwang gulay at karne. Dahil sa mga paghihigpit tulad nito at mabagal na proseso sa crossing, libo-libong karton ng pagkain at malaking supply na medikal ang naiipit sapagkat hindi makapasok ang mga truck mula sa Egypt. Lalong pinalalala ng sitwasyong ito ang humanitarian crisis na kinahaharap ngayon ng Palestinians. Ayon kay Masen Alcasas, na isang Palestinong na-displace, bawat araw na lumilipas, pasama ng pasama ang kanilang kalagayan.
We are waiting for the United Nations and the UNRWA to provide us with aid. Since we were displaced from Rafah to Khan Yunis 4 months ago, the food packages provided to us have almost run out. Our situation here is getting worse day by day.
Humaharap din sa mga pagsubok ang International Committee of the Red Cross o ICRC sa Gaza dahil sa pagkonti ng daloy ng aid papasok sa Gaza. Ang ICRC ang nag-aasikaso ng pagpasok at pag-deliver ng pagkain at medical aid sa mga malalaking lugar sa rehiyon.
Our urgent call from the International Committee of the Red Cross is that humanitarian aid, unimpeded and rapid and immediate, is needed now more than ever in Gaza, especially that we are approaching another winter, and that's going to be another tragedy for the civilian population, especially those who are displaced in both northern and southern Gaza Strip.
Humaharap din ang International Relief Group personnel sa mga banta sa kanilang buhay. Ayon sa UN, mula noong Oktubre nang sumabog ang labanan, higit sa 280 aid workers na ang namatay sa Gaza. Karamihan sa kanila ay staff members ng UNRWA. JC Yumul para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Tinanggihan ng Israel ang panawagan ng international community para sa isang ceasefire sa pagitan ng kanilang bansa at ng militanteng grupo ng Hezbollah. Nagpasya ang Israel na ituloy ang kanilang pag-atake sa Lebanon sa kabila ng panghihimok ng Estados Unidos at iba pa nitong mga kaalyadong bansa na itigil muna ng panandalian ang nasabing opensiba upang magbigay daan para sa dialogo sa pagitan ng magkabilang kampo. Sa kabila nito ay patuloy pa ring sinusubukang isulong ng Estados Unidos at France ang isang agarang 21-day ceasefire. Sa ngayon ay patuloy pa rin ang negosasyon na nagsimula naman noong United Nations General Assembly. Sa ngayon ay nagsisimula ng simulated ground invasion ng Israeli military na isang senyales ukol sa susunod na parte ng plano ng IDF. Nagpadala na rin ng Israel ng reserve troops at karagdagang sundalo sa Israel-Lebanese border na handang rumesponde sa kahit anong insidente. Ayon naman sa Israeli military ay handa rin silang tumulong sa mga sibilyang nais umalis sa kanilang mga naturang strike zone.
אנחנו עכשיו בלבנון הולכים למנוע כל אפשרות של העברות אמל"ח מאיראן אל מול מה שגרנו עכשיו לחיזבאללה.
Ayon kay Air Force Commander Major General Tomer Barra ay handa ang Israeli Air Force na suportahan ang on-the-ground troops ng Israel sa okasyon na tuluyan nitong lumusob paloob ng Lebanon at pipigilan rin nila ang pagpapadala ng armas ng Iran papasok sa Lebanon.
משום שהביטחון של נסראללה, חיזבאללה, ביכולת להשתקם ממה שקרה לו לפני מספר ימים, היא תלויה בשיבר הפתוח שמגיע מאיראן. אנחנו בעצם נערכים כתף אל כתף עם פיקוד צפון לכניסה של תמרון קרקעי. נערכים, אם יופעל, זו החלטה מעלינו.
Pumayag na si Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump na makipagkita kay Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sa New York. Ayon sa media sources, inextend ni Zelensky ang kanyang pananatili sa Estados Unidos upang kausapin ang dating Pangulo sa Trump Tower. Inaasahan ang pag-uusapan ng dalawang lider ang ukol sa gyera sa pagitan ng Russia at ng Ukraine. Dati nang sinabi ni Trump na kaya niyang wakasan ang away ng Russia at ng Ukraine sa loob ng isang araw.
Nagpahayag po na reklamo ang isang Haiti non-profit organization laban kina dating US President Donald Trump at Senator J.D. Vance na kanyang running mate sa presidential race. Isinampa ang mga reklamo ng Haitian Bridge Alliance na isang non-profit group na nagtataguyod para sa mga Haitian immigrants. Nagmula ang mga reklamo sa mga pahayag na Trump at Vance sa di umano'y ang mga Haitian immigrants sa Springfield ay kumakain ng mga alagang hayop sa lugar. Unang pinalaganap ni Vance sa mga aligasyon sa social media na inaakusahan ang mga Haitian migrants ng pagdukot at pagkain sa mga aso at pusa. Inulit rin ni Trump ang mga paratang sa kanyang debate laban kay US Vice President Kamala Harris. Nagdulot ang galit at takot sa komunidad ng mga Haitians sa Springfield ang mga paratang na ito.
Yes, since Monday, after the tweet of the Senator Vance, the Asian community in Springfield are a little bit shocked and frustrated. And a lot of them are maybe talking about leaving Springfield. A lot of them are, there is so much fears in the community.
Ayon sa Haitian Bridge Alliance, agudyok ito ng anti-immigrant sentiment na nagresulta sa kaliwat ka ng banta at panghaharas laban sa Haitian immigrant population sa lugar.
Nag-alok ang Estados Unidos ng $20 million na pabuya sa sinumang makapagbibigay ng impormasyon para tuluyang maaresto ang isang Iranian na nagtatangkang ipa-assassinate si dating US President Donald Trump at dating National Security Advisor John Bolton. Si Shahram Poursafi na membro ng Islamic Revolution Guard Corps o IRGC ay inakusahan na nagbayad ng mga kriminal para patayin si Bolton na kilalang kritiko ng Iran sa halagang $300,000. Inanunsyo ang reward matapos na pulungin ng US intelligence si Trump tungkol sa Iranian assassination plot laban sa kanya. Una nang itinanggi ng Iran na may balak silang patayin si Trump o makialam sa mga kaganapan sa Estados Unidos.
Susunod, sewage pipe sa China sumabog.
South Korea nag-imbento ng flying shopping carts.
At Rose ng Blackpink pumirma ng kontrata sa Atlantic Records. Mga detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik na mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
gobernador ng Georgia, USA sa mga residente nito sa inaasahang pinsala na idudulot ng Hurricane Helene sa Georgia. Narito ang report ni Philip Toledo.
On Thursday, Governor Brian Kemp warns Georgia residents to prepare themselves for Hurricane Helene. Kemp was visiting the State Operations Center at the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency headquarters here in Atlanta. The National Hurricane Center says Helene became a major Category 3 hurricane on Thursday afternoon, with sustained winds near 120 miles per hour or 193 kilometers per hour. It is expected to continue gaining power. Helene was forecast to make landfall in the evening in Florida's Big Bend region, possibly as a Category 4 storm with sustained winds in excess of 130 miles per hour or 209 kilometers per hour. Kemp says the storm would be a statewide event that would leave no part of the state untouched.
This is a big storm. It is going to affect our entire state. We feel certain we're going to be having to remove debris and clear roads statewide. So instead of deploying a bunch of resources to one part of the state like we normally would do before a storm, we're expecting to have to deal with debris fields in all parts of the state. So we're going to have a lot of people that we need to get moving to get the roads clear. And if there are people in our way, that's just going to slow down our progress. And it's very dangerous as well. As you remember in the last storm, we had a loss of life with the tree falling on a car. So just if people can stay home and stay off the roads unless it's an emergency or something critical that they have to do, that would be a big help to us.
Officials plead with residents in the path of the storm to heed mandatory evacuation orders. This or face life-threatening conditions. National Hurricane Center Director Michael Brennan says Helene's surge, the wall of seawater pushed on land by hurricane-force winds, could rise to as much as 20 feet or 6.1 meters in some spots. And as tall as a two-story house, the center says the hurricane was 160 miles or 274 kilometers west-southwest of Tampa, Florida as of 3 p.m. Strong rain bands were whipping parts of coastal Florida. Rainfall had already lashed Georgia, South Carolina, central and western North Carolina, and portions of Tennessee. Atlanta, which is hundreds of miles north of Florida's Big Bend, was under a tropical storm warning. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
At pasintabi po muna sa mga kumakain ha dahil sumabog po ang isang sewage pipeline sa Nanning, China na lumikha ng tinatawag na volcano kung saan ay lumipad sa 33 feet ang mga dumi ng mga tao at puminsala sa mga sasakyan. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nagsagawa ng pressure test ang mga engineers na gumagawa ng sewage pipes at dito na sumabog ang septic tank na may karga ng mga dumi. Kitang-kita po sa video ang pag-spray ng kulay orange na human waste na sumambulat sa ere. Wala naman ang napaulat na nasaktan sa nasabing insidente.
Sa ibang balita, sa South Korea nakapag-imbento ang mga researchers ng Seoul National University of Science and Technology ng unang flying shopping carts. Ayon sa mga researchers, ang naimbentong flying carts ay senyales ng inobasyon at pag-usad ng teknolohiya. Dinisenyo ang flying carts mula sa pinagsamang wire baskets at drones. Tinawag nila itong palindrome mula sa pinagsamang salita na pallet o basket at drone. Sa kasalukuyan ay nasa development pa ang palindrome kung kaya limitado pa ang bigat na pwede nitong dalhin. Pero inaasahan na sa mga susunod na prototypes nito ay posibleng mas marami na ang mabubuhat nito.
Baitang sports po tayo, inanunsyo na ni NBA star Derrick Rose na ito ay magre-retiro na sa paglalaro ng basketball. Sa kanyang social media account ay isinagawa nito ang nasabing anunsyo. Dagdag ng tinaguri ang pinakabatang most valuable player ng NBA na napapanahon na ang kanyang pagre-retiro sa loob ng 16 na taong career sa basketball. Sa pangatlong season ng kanyang paglalaro sa liga ay nakamit niya ang NBA's Most Valuable Player Award, kung saan nakuha din niya ang record ng pinakabatang player na makakuha ng ganitong uri ng parangal sa edad na 22. Siya rin ang naging #1 overall pick ng 2008 NBA draft ng Chicago Bulls at League's MVP noong taong 2011. Naging Rookie of the Year siya noong 2008 to 2009 para sa Bulls at MVP ng 2 seasons matapos ang All-Star selection sa 3 ng unang 4 na season. Taong 2012 nang inoperahan ito sa tuhod, kung kaya't persahan itong hindi makapaglaro ng halos 2 seasons. Bukod po sa Bulls ay naglaro din ito sa New York Knicks, Detroit Pistons, Minnesota Timberwolves, Cleveland Cavaliers at Memphis Grizzlies.
Binigyan din po ng aktres na si Meryl Streep sa United Nations General Assembly ang kalagayan ng mga kababaihan sa Afghanistan. Sinabi ni Streep na mas may kalayaan pa ang mga squirrel kumpara sa mga babae na nasa Afghanistan dahil sa malupit na patakaran ng kanilang gobyerno. Kasunod ito ng ibinabang batas ng Taliban na nagbabawal sa kababaihan na magpunta sa public parks at eskwelahan, pati na rin ang pagkanta sa pampublikong lugar.
That this culture, this society has been upended is a cautionary tale for the rest of the world. In the 70s, most of the civil servants were women, over half the teachers, doctors. There were women jurists, lawyers, in every profession. And then the world upended. And today, in Kabul, a female cat has more freedoms than a woman. A cat may go sit on her front stoop and feel the sun on her face. She may chase a squirrel into the park. A squirrel has more rights than a girl in Afghanistan today because the public parks have been closed to women and girls.
Matatandaan na naibalik sa kamay ng Taliban ng Afghanistan noong 2021 na siyang naging hudyat ng mas mahirap na pamumuhay para sa mga kababaihan ng bansa. Samantala, matindi ngayon ang panawagan ng international community at mga grupo ng human rights sa usapin ng pagbabawal sa pantay na karapatan na dapat ay makuha ng mga kababaihan sa Afghanistan. Pumirma na ngayon ang kontrata sa Atlantic Records ang miyembro ng Blackpink na si Rose para sa kanyang solo activities. Sa inilabas na Instagram post ni Rose ay mapapansin ang caption na "My number ones, I'm so excited to announce to you my signing with Atlantic Records." Dagdag pa rito ay hinikayat din niya ang mga fans na suportahan ang kanyang Instagram account na may username na Vampire Holly. Anya ay dito masusubaybayan ang kanyang mga nakatakdang solo activities at projects kasama na ang kanyang buong team. Matatandaan na bilang solo artist ay inilabas ni Rose ang kanyang debut single album na R sa ilalim ng Interscope at YG Entertainment noong 2021. Ilan sa mga hit solo songs niya ang On the Ground at Gone na pumasok naman sa Billboard Hot 100. Samantala, kinikilala rin si Rose bilang global ambassador ng mga mamahaling brands gaya ng Yves Saint Laurent, Puma at Tiffany & Company.
Kapapasok lamang pong balita, pumanaw na ang Harry Potter star na si Maggie Smith sa edad na 89 na taon. Ayon sa mga anak ni Smith, sina Sophie Stephens at Chris Larkin, namaya pa ang kanilang ina sa ospital Biyernes ng umaga. Nagpasalamat po ang pamilya na aktres sa mga doktor at empleyado ng Chelsea at Westminster Hospital dahil sa pag-aalaga ng mga ito sa kanilang ina. Taong 2007 na ma-diagnose si Smith ng breast cancer. Ilan po sa mga awards na natanggap na aktres ay 2 Academy Awards, 5 BAFTA Awards, 4 na Emmy Awards at 3 Golden Globe Awards. Lalong sumikat ang British actress dahil sa kanyang role sa Harry Potter bilang si Professor Minerva McGonagall. Sa iba pong mga balita, aabot naman sa $30 milyong ang halaga ng Claude Monet painting na naibenta sa isang auction sa Hong Kong. Lumalabas na ang nasabing painting ng Nympheus ay nasa 125 taon na ang tanda. Nananatili ito sa pangangalaga ng pamilya ni Monet mula nang namatay si Claude noong 1926 bago ito tuluyang mapunta sa isang pribadong koleksyon. Ayon sa Christie's auction ay isang international client ang nakabili ng painting na hindi naman nagbigay ng personal na detalye sa pagkakakilanlan. Bukod po dito ay naibenta rin sa event ang Le Canoe Amara, painting ni Van Gogh na pininta naman noong 1887 at isa sa mga rare paintings na makikita sa Asia. Samantala, nabili naman ang Van Gogh sa halagang higit sa $27 milyong, mas mababa po kumpara sa Monet.
Nagbabalik ngayon ang mga cute characters na Teletubbies. Hindi sa TV kung hindi para sa isang world tour na The House of Teletubbies. Magsisimula ang tour sa London kung saan ang Soho Gallery ay babaguhin ang disenyo at iaayon kay Tinky Winky, Dipsy, Lala at Pooh. Ayon sa direktor na nagmamay-ari sa Teletubbies na brand na si Melissa Goodrich, ay 13 mga artists sa buong mundo ang magiging bahagi ng tour. Ilan sa mga trabaho na kanilang gagawin ay pagpili sa mga materyales na gagamitin sa paggawa ng mga backdrop, pagkuha ng mga larawan at pagpili ng mga pintura. Matatandaan ang Teletubbies ay isang sikat na pambatang palabas sa telebisyon na unang umere noong 1997. Napanood ang palabas sa mahigit na 190 mga bansa sa buong mundo na may iba't ibang lengguwahe. Samantala, mga kasama sa mga lugar na pupuntahan ng World Tour ay ang Miami, Florida at US sa December na susundan naman sa Asia sa 2025.
Siyempre, nabutan natin yan, Nina, di ba?
Oo nga, naman. Panahon na, 1997 ba naman? Kaya nga, tinan mo tong kulay ko. Very,
ayan, very talis. Kaya ka pala naka-bright.
Di ba?
At saan?
Hindi ako nag-tan, Ricky. Hindi ako nag-tan.
Buti lang hindi ka nag-tan. Kahapon tayo nag-tan. Okay. Dahil ngayon po ay araw na ng Biyernes, akalain nyo, weekend na naman. Kaya sana po you will have a bright weekend ahead of you. At tandaan, mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, narito po kami ni Nina para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Muli ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Lago Flores, bumabati po ng happy weekend. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
And Ricky, good evening everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Helene pounds Florida with fierce winds, sparking fears of catastrophic storm surges and flooding.
You need to be right now just hunkering down. Now is not the time to be going out. Not only are we seeing it hit landfall here in northern Florida, you're still seeing surge and water rising in parts of Florida far south.
Israel rejects a ceasefire with Hezbollah, even as the U.S., France, and their allies push for a 21-day pause in fighting.
We cannot have a war in Lebanon.
My policy, our policy is clear. We are continuing to hit Hezbollah with full force, and we will not stop.
And is Vladimir Putin ready to go nuclear? The Russian president issues a fresh warning, stating Russia reserves the right to use nuclear weapons if attacked. The news starts now. Helene is battering Florida, bringing severe winds and potential for catastrophic flooding. The storm is expected to intensify before making landfall with storm surges reaching up to 20 feet. Take a look. Forecasters are issuing dire warnings tonight as Hurricane Helene continues its assault on Florida's Big Bend region. Mandatory evacuations are in effect and states of emergency have been declared across multiple areas.
Providing an update on Hurricane Helene, it is currently making landfall in Taylor County in the Big Bend section of Florida, Deckle Beach. It is a Category 4 storm with maximum sustained winds of 140 miles per hour. It is moving northeast at 24 mile per hour. Hurricane force winds are extending up to 60 miles from the center of the storm, and tropical storm force winds are extending 300 miles from the center of the storm. You need to be right now just hunkering down. Now is not the time to be going out. Not only are we seeing it hit landfall here in northern Florida, you're still seeing surge and water rising in parts of Florida far south from the Big Bend area.
Very concerned about multiple life-threatening hazards that are going to start playing out here in just the next couple of hours. We're expecting between Apalachicola and Chassahowitzka, 10 to 20 feet of storm surge inundation above ground level, especially near and to the right of where the center of Helene crosses the coast.
This massive storm, as seen from a flyover by the International Space Station, spans 800 miles wide and 1,000 miles long, making it a formidable force. The National Weather Service has also issued a grave warning about the potential for unsurvivable conditions along the coast.
There's going to be destructive wave action on top of that, especially near where the hurricane makes landfall. So this is going to create unsurvivable conditions in these areas.
A massive 46 million people remain under flood alerts, with 20 million also at risk of tornadoes spawned by the storm. The hurricane's power is strong enough to send trees crashing down and cause devastating damage across the region.
Stay put. Also, if you're sheltering in place, know your surroundings in terms of trees. You are going to see trees that are going to get knocked down. I'm sure some have already been knocked down.
Local officials are urging those in the storm's path to heed evacuation orders immediately.
We're already seeing impacts in Florida, and the forecast indicates that we could see up to 20 feet of storm surge. So just think back 2 years ago to Hurricane Ian. The peak storm surge from that was 14 feet, and we saw the amount of destruction, and 150 people lost their lives, the majority of them from drowning. So please take this threat from storm surge seriously.
Helene's reach isn't limited to Florida alone. In Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp has already declared a state of emergency.
We've declared a state of emergency, as you know, for all 159 counties on Tuesday, giving emergency management teams plenty of time to prepare. As Will told me in our briefing, at this point it doesn't really matter what category this storm is. It's one of the biggest that we've ever seen in the Atlantic from a size perspective on the width of it. Over, around 500 miles wide, so it's going to affect a large area as it comes across Florida into Georgia.
Members of the Public Security Secretariat of Guerrero in southwestern Mexico stepped in to assist citizens affected by the impact of Hurricane John. Officers used ropes to help locals cross streets flooded by heavy rains in the region. Now, Hurricane John strengthened once again on Thursday as it hurled rain at Mexico's southwestern coast, dotted with ports and tourist hotspots, an area already soaked by the slow-moving storm system over the past several days. John was churned menacingly near the stretch of coastline since Monday, weakening and then strengthening again as it impacted major cargo ports, temporarily shutting local airports, as well as claiming at least 5 lives, mostly due to mudslides. Now to the war in the Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is once again choosing war over a ceasefire as Israel launches new airstrikes on Lebanon. Reports say 72 people have been killed, bringing the death toll to over 620. Is this a repeat of what we saw in Gaza? Relentless aerial bombardments followed by a ground offensive. Hezbollah is fighting back with rocket attacks, but so far, the damage has been limited. However, with 100,000 fighters and 150,000 rockets, could Hezbollah pose a greater threat? They've also prepared for this war with a network of tunnels and stored Iranian missiles underground. How long can this escalation last? A full-scale war might even draw in Iran, which has warned it won't remain neutral if Lebanon is fully invaded.
Iran has already shown tremendous patience and restraint for the sake of regional peace and stability. Iran firmly upholds its inherent right to defend its vital interests. And finally, Iran will not remain indifferent in case of a full-scale war in Lebanon. We stand with the people of Lebanon with all means.
Can the global community, led by the U.S. and France, prevent this? They're pushing for a 21-day ceasefire, but Netanyahu has already rejected it, especially in the north where most of the fighting is concentrated.
We cannot have a war in Lebanon. There cannot be a war in Lebanon. This is why we urge Israel to cease this escalation in Lebanon, and we urge Hezbollah to cease the missile launches to Israel. We urge all of those who provide them with the means to do so to stop doing so.
My policy, our policy is clear. We are continuing to hit Hezbollah with full force, and we will not stop until we achieve all our goals. First and foremost, returning the residents of the north safely to their homes.
What's next for other countries? The US, UK, India, and Australia have all urged their citizens to leave Lebanon, bracing for more escalation. But despite international pressure, will Netanyahu continue to push forward? Netanyahu is expected to address the UN General Assembly soon. Will he reveal his plans for the region? Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has condemned Israel's actions, calling them genocide.
We will not leave. We will not leave. We will not leave. Palestine is our homeland. It is the land of our fathers, our grandfathers. It will remain ours.
The Department of Foreign Affairs and the Philippine Embassy in Lebanon have confirmed they are prepared to evacuate Filipinos in Lebanon if the fighting between the Israeli army and Hezbollah escalates into a ground invasion. Currently, the DFA has implemented Alert Level 3, which allows for voluntary repatriation of Filipinos in Lebanon. Philippine Ambassador to Lebanon, Raymond Balatbat, stated they have started stockpiling essential supplies, including food, medicine, and fuel, in anticipation of possible escalation, even though Alert Level 4, which indicates mandatory evacuation, has not yet been declared. According to embassy records, there are about nearly 11,000 Filipinos in Lebanon, with 196 located in southern Lebanon, where the conflict is most intense. Now, some of these Filipinos have already left southern Lebanon and are now in Beirut. The DFA explained that while they encourage Filipinos to repatriate, many prefer to stay.
We cannot force our kababayan to go home. Nag-conduct ng consultation si Ambassador Balatbat with the community leaders in Lebanon, and all of them, almost unanimous, are opposed to any mandatory repatriation by the Philippine government. Now, we're a democracy here in the Philippines. We are also a democracy abroad. So we cannot force those Filipinos in Lebanon. They're used to the crisis there. However, we are processing more than 1,000 requests for voluntary repatriation.
As Israel's conflict with Hezbollah intensifies, experts are warning that a ground invasion into Lebanon could be costly, with limited long-term success. Dr. Andreas Krieg, a senior lecturer at the School of Security Studies, explains the difficult situation Israel faces as it tries to achieve its objectives while grappling with Hezbollah's entrenched presence in Lebanon.
We're in a very dramatic situation here. The Israelis clearly don't prefer to do a ground invasion in Lebanon, but they have clearly set an objective of wanting to have their nationals returning back to their homes in northern Israel. So that is a clear objective. That objective will not be achieved if the status quo remains. So the status quo as it is now is, for the Israelis at least, not sustainable. So what they're trying to do is to make the situation for Hezbollah unsustainable as well. So up until a couple of weeks ago, Hezbollah would be able to indefinitely sustain the attacks by Israel on its infrastructure.
The military strategy Israel may pursue could have short-term benefits, but the bigger question remains, can Hezbollah be unseated?
I think if the idea for the IDF is to then just grab territory and holding it in southern Lebanon, moving or pushing Hezbollah physically up to the Litani River, this is at least something that Israel might be temporarily be able to achieve, but is a situation that the IDF will not be able to maintain for long. So we'll have to eventually withdraw again. And then obviously Hezbollah can move back in. So it's an operation at large cost that at very best would probably achieve operational objectives, military objectives, but will be far from achieving any strategic objectives because Hezbollah will not be unseated in Lebanon and Hezbollah will not be destroyed.
Despite lacking air power, Hezbollah is deeply entrenched and battle-hardened.
They have no air power. They have no real air force. I mean, they have drones, but they're basically completely outperformed in the airspace. And Israel has full dominance of the airspace in both cases, in Gaza and also in southern Lebanon, which means it makes it very difficult for Hezbollah to operate in the open in a conventional sort of military way. So we will see, similar to Gaza, we will see Hezbollah trying to exploit the terrain and exploit their tunnel systems, exploit their hideouts and fortifications across southern Lebanon, attack the Israelis from the rear, trying to avoid open combat as much as possible because that's when you are being struck from the air, and basically wait for a sort of short range direct infantry engagement when possible.
Dr. Krieg suggests a path to de-escalation might lie in Gaza.
Everything they're doing is related to what Israel is doing in Gaza. So the easy way out, the easier, less costly way out for Israel would be to enter into negotiations wholeheartedly in Gaza and trying to find a settlement there, a solution, and a ceasefire, because then Hezbollah would find it much easier to step back from the edge, from the brink of escalation where we are right now. But offering negotiations with Hezbollah, as long as Gaza is ongoing and as long as the Netanyahu government is saying they're unwilling to do anything in Gaza in terms of solving the Gaza conflict, in this kind of context, Hezbollah is not going to agree to any ceasefire, any negotiation. So I think the root cause, the key to stability in Lebanon will be an end of the war in Gaza.
Is Vladimir Putin really prepared to go nuclear? The Russian president issued new threats, warning the West that Russia deserves the right to use nuclear weapons if attacked. But why now, and how serious is this warning, especially with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky meeting U.S. President Joe Biden to push for long-range missiles this week? Here's what President Putin had to say.
Мы видим, что современная военно-политическая обстановка динамично меняется, и мы обязаны это учитывать, в том числе возникновение новых источников военных угроз и рисков для России и наших союзников. Документа. Агрессию против России со стороны любого неядерного государства, но с участием или при поддержке ядерного государства предлагается рассматривать как их совместное нападение на Российскую Федерацию. Также четко фиксируются условия перехода России к применению ядерного оружия. Будем рассматривать такую возможность уже при получении достоверной информации о массированном старте средств воздушно-космического нападения и пересечении ими нашей государственной границы. Имею в виду самолеты стратегической или тактической авиации, крылатые ракеты, беспилотники, гиперзвуковые и другие летательные.
Could Putin be drawing a line in the sand? Experts believe this warning is directly tied to Ukraine's lobbying for more advanced weapons from the West. Now, here are the details. What's different about this threat? For the second time in 4 years, Putin has revised Russia's nuclear doctrine. And he's making it clear that any attack whether it's missiles, drones, or aircraft, could prompt a nuclear response. Is Russia abandoning the no first use policy, meaning it might strike first even without facing a nuclear threat?
Mr. Putin stated yesterday, I think it demonstrates that he is concerned regarding the threat to the national security of Russia. And hence, he finds it necessary to warn the West, of course, in particular, US and NATO, that there is a limit to what they can actually do.
And why is this happening now? The timing coincides with Ukraine's growing offensive inside Russian territory, including recent gains in the Kursk region. Zelensky is pushing for Western long-range missiles like the US-made ATACMS and Britain's Storm Shadow to strike deeper into Russia.
In my view, there is a direct correlation between the fact that the US and the UK governments are suggesting that they are considering as to whether allow Ukraine to use Russian and British missiles to attack deep inside Russia. So there's direct correlation there, and Putin is saying, just stop it right there before further contemplation on this point, because it's going to have very dire consequences.
So is Putin preemptively responding to this? Now, there are escalation concerns. How far could this go? Russian media has been fueling the nuclear rhetoric, even floating the idea of simulating nuclear strikes on replicas of Western cities like London or Washington, D.C. Is this just posturing or a sign of real escalation? Meanwhile, Zelensky is warning of potential Russian strikes on Ukraine's energy structure, including its nuclear power plants.
Recently, I received yet another alarming report from our intelligence. Now, Putin does seem to be planning attacks on our nuclear power plants and their infrastructure, aiming to disconnect the plants from the power grid. With the help of satellites, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, satellites of other countries. Russia is getting images and detailed information about the infrastructure of our nuclear power plants. But what does this really threaten? Any missile or drone strike, any critical incident in the energy system could lead to a nuclear disaster. A day like that must never come.
Could this lead to an even greater disaster? During his U.S. visit, Zelensky is making his case for more military support. But will Biden be willing to give Ukraine the green light for long-range missiles? And what happens if the U.S. changes its stance after Biden's term ends? Now here's the outlook. Zelensky is leaving Washington with $8 billion more in military aid, enough to keep Ukraine's defense going for now. But with U.S. elections on the horizon, could the support from America shift? And what happens if Ukraine loses its strongest ally, depending on who wins the White House next year? But for now, Zelensky is trying to secure as much help as he can before time runs out. Federal prosecutors have charged New York City Mayor Eric Adams with bribery, wire fraud, and conspiracy in a scheme involving illegal campaign contributions from Turkish nationals. Take a look.
The conduct alleged in the indictment, the foreign money, the corporate money, the bribery, the years of concealment, is a grave breach of the public's trust.
Federal prosecutors charged New York City Mayor Eric Adams with bribery, wire fraud, conspiracy, and accepting illegal campaign contributions on Thursday. Manhattan's top federal prosecutor, Damian Williams, detailed a years-long scheme alleging Adams received improper valuable benefits from Turkish nationals in exchange for pressuring city officials to allow Turkey's new consulate to open, despite safety concerns.
Today we are announcing campaign finance, bribery, and conspiracy charges against Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City. As the indictment alleges, Mayor Adams engaged in a long-running conspiracy in which he solicited and knowingly accepted illegal campaign contributions from foreign donors and corporations. As we allege, Mayor Adams took these contributions even though he knew they were illegal, and even though he knew these contributions were attempts by a Turkish government official and Turkish businessmen to buy influence with him. We also allege that the mayor sought and accepted well over $100,000 in luxury travel benefits from some of the same foreign actors who arranged many of the illegal campaign contributions. These benefits included free international business class flights and opulent hotel rooms in foreign cities.
I will continue to do the job for 8.3 million New Yorkers that I was elected to do.
Adams said he would not step down at a news conference outside Gracie Mansion, the official residence of the mayor, which federal agents searched just hours earlier. Adams said he would fight the charges in court and denied any wrongdoing.
If it's campaign violations, I know I don't violate the campaign. That's right. If it's foreign donors, I know I don't take money from foreign donors. And I ask New Yorkers to wait to hear our defense before making any judgments.
Adams is New York City's first mayor to be criminally charged while in office. Prosecutors said he disguised campaign contributions from Turkish sources by funneling it through U.S. citizens. Those funds allowed Adams to qualify for an additional $10 million in public financing. Turkey's foreign ministry had no immediate comment.
First mayor in New York City history to actually be indicted while in office. There have been scandals involving New York mayors in the past. There have been some mayors who've quit while charges were floating around. It is hard to see what the defense would be to some of these charges. I mean, you could argue that the facts are wrong, although the government claims to have a lot of facts that show that there were foreign donations and that these donations were being hidden through straw donors. But once the government is able to establish that there were foreign donations and donations that were hidden through straw donors, it's hard to understand what the defense is.
A senior U.S. defense official has revealed that China's newest nuclear-powered attack submarine sank earlier this year. And this incident reportedly happened sometime between May and June, while the submarine was docked at the Wuchang shipyard. Satellite images from Planet Lab show cranes at the shipyard suggesting there's been some activity related to the submarine. However, a spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington has said they don't have any information to share about what happened. It's worth noting that China already has the largest navy in the world, boasting over 370 ships. They're also ramping up production of a new generation of nuclear-armed submarines. According to a Pentagon report, China had 6 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines and 6 nuclear-powered attack submarines, along with 48 diesel-powered attack submarines as of 2022. By 2025, their submarine force is expected to grow to 65, and by 2035 to a whopping 80. In another twist, Taiwan's defense ministry chimed in on Friday, saying that their intelligence services are aware of the situation regarding the reportedly sunk Chinese submarine. Defense Minister Wellington Koo spoke in Taipei, confirming that authorities are keeping an eye on things through various intelligence and surveillance methods, though he didn't go into further detail. And the news continues here on NET25 World News. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Ang mga maiinit na balita at rumaratsyad ng usapan ng bayan, ihahatid namin sa 100%! 100% ang pagbabalita! 100% talakayan! Lunes hanggang Biyernes! Alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga! Live na live sa Radyo Agila 1062 Mega Manila! At sa NET25 100%!
Sa NET25, let's net together. Sa NET25.
Veteran lawmaker Shigeru Ishiba was set to become Japan's next prime minister after winning a closely fought contest in his 5th and final attempt to lead the ruling Liberal Democratic Party.
国民を信じ、勇気と真心を持って真実を語り、この日本国をもう一度皆が笑顔で暮らせる。安全で安心な国にするために石破茂全力を尽くしてまいります。 どうぞよろしくお願い申し上げます。ありがとうございました。
Ishiba prevailed over hardline nationalist Sane Takaichi in a runoff vote in what was seen as one of the most unpredictable leadership elections in decades, with a record 9 candidates in the field. The leader of the LDP, which has ruled Japan for almost all of the post-war era, is essentially assured of becoming Japan's premier because of its majority in parliament. Ishiba must quell anger at home over rising living costs and navigate a volatile security environment in East Asia, fueled by an increasingly assertive China and nuclear-armed North Korea. The scramble to replace current Premier Fumio Kishida was sparked in August when he announced his intention to step down over a series of scandals that plunged the Liberal Democratic Party's ratings to record lows. Finally, in our news, this week in AI, we're exploring groundbreaking developments from nuclear energy to celebrity voices. Take a look.
From why Microsoft is going nuclear to how Meta's chatbot could soon sound strangely familiar, this is AI Weekly. Microsoft and Constellation Energy say they've struck a deal to help resurrect a unit of the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. Big tech has led to a sudden surge in U.S. electricity demand for data centers needed to expand technologies like AI and cloud computing. The plant made headlines in 1979 with a partial meltdown at one of its reactors, but the reopening plan involves a different one. Meta's AI chatbot is set to start speaking in celebrity voices. Meta AI will now respond to voice commands and have the option to select celebrity voices, such as those of Judi Dench and John Cena.
So that's exactly what I found out.
The voices will be used across Meta's apps, from WhatsApp to Facebook. Amazon says it has a new AI app that will help independent sellers with things like sales metrics, inventory, and advertising. Dubbed Amelia, it can answer questions like, "How is my business performing?" or "How many units have I sold?" Spotify says it's expanding its AI playlist tool to new markets, including the US and Canada. It helps users personalize their selection of songs and refine it with prompts. The hope is to attract new subscribers amid growing competition from rivals like Apple. And China's Alibaba has released more than 100 new AI models. They're open source products, in contrast to ones from rivals like Baidu and OpenAI. Alibaba says the models are proficient in math and coding and can communicate in dozens of languages.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.